Good afternoon. I'd like to start by thanking the ARM Committee for inviting us to present today. CTI has been a sponsor since the inception of ARM almost 15 years ago. Also like to congratulate the two previous speakers from EG 427 and Genathon for the amazing progress just since last year's meeting. Over the next few minutes, what I'd like to do is, for those who don't know CTI, introduce the most experienced clinical research organization in the world when it comes to advanced therapy products. And I would like to end the presentation with a very short video showing the complexities of one of these particular studies and actually show the youngest child in the world to receive a gene-based treatment for AADC deficiency. CTI was formed 26 years ago. We have become one of the 20 largest clinical research organizations in the world with associates in 69 countries. We were able to scale from a first-in-man study to the largest phase 3 pivotal program anywhere that a sponsor would need us. We are the most experienced CG&T CRO, as I'll highlight moving forward. We have a full suite of service offerings, including our own research site, as well as our own global laboratory footprint. In addition, our regulatory consulting part of the organization is very, very important and critical to the earliest steps of trying to decide study design, location, patient populations, et cetera. Finally, we work on behalf of more than 250 pharma, biotech, medical device companies around the globe and have been part of 207 drug and device approvals since our inception. Last year alone, we had 13 different therapies, 8 that the FDA approved and 5 that the EMA approved that we were part of. And I think the core to our success is about our people. And many of you partner or hire pharma services companies and complain frequently about turnover within the personnel. I'm very proud to say we have industry-leading retention, and this goes back 10, 15, even 20 years. So it is a very, very experienced team that you are able to work with. We have the largest footprint of all the mid-sized clinical research organizations and also the largest suite of service offerings. What does this mean to you? What it means to you is a company that's large enough that we can do anything you would need, but small enough that you will actually matter. One of the criticisms we have for sponsors working sometimes with the largest CROs in the world is they feel like they don't matter whatsoever, and I can tell you that's not the experience across the CTI landscape. Global headquarters are in Cincinnati in the U.S., but we have regional headquarters and regional offices close by all of our sponsors, which allows for not just video or phone or email communication, but actually in-person meetings on a regular basis. It's a very experienced leadership team that you will see here on this particular slide. And as an example, our Chief Medical Officer, Monica Shaw, has been on the sponsor side and has been part of multiple gene therapies moving into the clinic and through the clinic to approvals before joining CTI. We also have managing directors in each of the regions that are very familiar with the regulatory authorities and have personal relationships. Many times, I'll give you an example, in Saudi Arabia last year at this time, we were able to move a gene therapy for sickle cell through the Saudi Ministry of Health in 28 days from the time we submitted our dossier to actually treating the first subject. So having an experienced team like this can be very, very beneficial to programs, both speed and quality of results. Give you a sense for CTI, about 75% of all of our work since inception is in rare diseases, and as such, we're very comfortable working in small patient populations, and more than 50% of our work is in cell and gene therapy. I'll give you an example. We have more than 100 active clinical trials in cell and gene therapy today, representing more than 50 sponsors. And as such, a very high percentage of these involve children, even as young as neonates that we're able to treat and enroll in studies. Outside recognition for the organization comes frequently, and just want to highlight a couple on this slide where we've been named the #1 clinical research organization in the world over the last couple of years. We also have been named the #1 site, as well as the highest CRO for retention and enrollment in a study, which we think that is the hallmark of being able to do studies to the highest degree. Service offerings, as mentioned, are broad, so typically we do not have to go outside and use other CROs. There are times occasionally where we have partner technology companies or obviously academic research sites that we use, but we do have a full suite of services that our sponsors are able to benefit from. One of the things that's very unique for us is we hear very often somebody develops a cell or gene-based approach, and the question is, I speak with regulatory authorities who challenge me on the dose. We have what we believe is the most experienced model-informed drug development team in the world who is able to take preclinical data, utilize various things like vector, route of administration, et cetera, and come up with a documented approach for using the first dose in the first-in-man study. And as such, we can reduce the time to get into phase 1 as well as move through phase 1 and able to reduce the number of cohorts and the size of cohorts. We think this is a very much of an unutilized resource across our industry, and one that both FDA and EMA have stated very loudly that they're in favor of this approach of a model-informed drug development to guide initial doses. As mentioned, over the last several years, CTI has built a global laboratory presence, including a laboratory here in Europe. We have found that our sponsors were not getting the service for some of the largest laboratories, either because of the complexity of the testing or because of the demands relative to sample transport, turnaround times, sample viability, et cetera. So we have 2 brand new laboratories built from scratch that are able to serve any study needs from preclinical through clinical and commercialization. College of American Pathology and CLIA certified, as well as our bioanalytical lab here in Spain, which is GLP certified. So a very experienced team, and one that is able to relieve a pain point that we frequently hear about. This is a very short video just giving you a sense of the North American laboratory and a very similar sister laboratory in Spain. It's quite large, and like I said, able to accommodate either extremely early stage studies or all the way through late pivotal studies. We feel like, as a team, CTI has more experience relative to moving advanced therapies into the clinic and through the clinic. Of the 24 or so approved products across the globe, we have been part of more than 60% of those clinical trials and those regulatory experience. And as such, more than 90% of our sponsors have awarded us repeat business. We feel like that is very much of a differentiating factor. Somebody starts to work with us and continues working with us, sometimes moves to another company, or their company is acquired and they start another one, as you've already heard at this meeting and today a couple of times, and we're able to obviously take that relationship and continue to build off it. The other thing that's particularly important is our relationships at the site level. Many of the academic sites that we utilize for cell and gene therapy trials are repetitive, so knowing their ethics committee, their site budgeting and contracting approach, knowing which investigators to have are really important to having a particularly successful study. This particular slide just highlights the experience in the cell and gene world for us. In the lower right-hand quadrant, you can see the cell sources, and they are many. You can also see the vectors and the route of administration. One of the things that we have seen evolve over the last 10 years is, with the exception of some CAR-T studies where we're treating hematological malignancies, most of our cell and gene therapy trials today do not use an intravenous route of administration. We have routes of administration that run the gamut from directly into the eye, into the brain, into a number of different organs in the abdominal cavity, et cetera. So very much able to take the treatment and put it in close proximity to where the disease is most concentrated. Just to give you a sense, if you look at the current portfolio of our studies, about half of the studies that we have are cell-based and about half are gene therapy-based. If you look at it again, it splits pretty evenly between allogeneic and autologous. And relative to vector, about 40% utilize lentivirus, about 40% utilize some AAV approach, and then 20% are miscellaneous, including things like retrovirus. To give you a sense, about half or more of our programs are phase 1 or phase 2, although we're seeing an increasing number of registration studies, including, for instance, a recently awarded two cell therapy programs in diabetes. These are phase 3 pivotal trials being conducted around the globe. So I'd like to think that maybe next year at this meeting, an update could be that those studies are now completely enrolled, and that we'll then wait for follow-up to look at the efficacy results. As highlighted, this just shows you some of the recent advanced therapy products that CTI has worked on, and you can see the spectrum. We have some of the oldest ones in the industry, going back to Bluebird Bio and the adrenoleukodystrophy, the beta thalassemia, and the sickle cell, places like Spark Therapeutics with their Luxturna treatment for retinal disease, and then also some of the more recent approvals as recently as just a few months ago.
Ciao, sono Yuri Keki. Vuoi sapere quanto vale la tua auto? Vai su noicompriamoauto.it, inserisci i dati della tua auto e ricevi subito il prezzo di vendita.
We're supposed to get this commercial. Can we skip that ad?
In una filiale come questa. Fidati di me.
Thank you. I think if you hit forward, you'll actually...
Quanto vale la tua auto su noicompriamoauto.it.
In case you're buying an auto.
And he's got a problem where he cannot move at all. He can barely lift his head, and he has these episodes where he stiffens and his eyes go up and they're stuck to the side.
Those are symptoms of a disruption in the brain caused by a gene mutation. It produced a damaged version of the A8DC enzyme in little Shreyance's body. Dr. Donald Gilbert of Ohio's Cincinnati Children's Hospital told me. Traditionally, there'd been no treatment for the rare condition. When Shreyance's parents brought him into the hospital, which provided these images, however, Dr. Gilbert told them,
We just agreed to participate in a study that could change everything.
So sure enough, at 16 months old, with the help of a virus delivery system,
they put the missing genes right in the right place in his brain where he needs it.
4 months later, Shreyance could sit up, and within a year, he could run and play in ways his parents never thought possible.
All those persons who helped throughout my journey, I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
So he's the youngest kid on earth to get this. So the earlier you make the diagnosis and treat it, the better. And now it's FDA approved.
The hope, of course, is that the way this therapy was delivered through a virus right into the brain for this condition will help others with rare diseases. The research now already underway.
Hey there, thanks.
That is worth applauding. That is why we do what we do. And I think ARM, obviously a leading group moving medicine forward, as we like to say. The complexities that go into treating a child, like you just saw in that video, all of the regulatory work, the manufacturing work, the clinical operations, the financial outpouring that has to happen to fund the companies are extraordinary. But I think when you see a success like that, it really makes you feel good of why we do what we do. Just finally, to conclude, if you look at the foundations for managing a gene therapy or cell therapy trial, you can see all the complexities around IP management, logistics, the site management and selection, the support. I feel like the advocacy groups and the patients continue to play an even bigger role in driving the research. And then ultimately, I think the issue of training and regulatory development are really important. And if you look at from a CTI perspective, we are well positioned to be able to provide, whether it be the support around the preclinical stage, whether it's the global regulatory strategy, oversight of the clinical trial management from beginning to end, selection of investigators, as well as specialized patient recruitment. There are times where I feel like we are a travel agency because we move patients and their families all over the world sometimes in order to make sure they're at the right treatment place for a particular study. But this is really important to have this level. And then also want to highlight the issue of regulatory interactions. We have a very simple saying of which is go early, go often. There is no time that's too early to start interacting with the regulatory authorities. As a sponsor, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, or if you'd like to have your packets looked at by a third party, if you'd like to make sure the questions you're asking are appropriate, this is something our team does every day and continues to do literally throughout the day-to-day. One of the questions we get is, what's the FDA vibe right now? I can tell you all the way through last week, we were having our packets reviewed and accepted on time. We were having actually in-person meetings in some cases with sponsors. Will that continue? It remains to be seen. But I think from the standpoint of scientific advice, RMAT designations, fast track, breakthrough, orphan, all those type things are ones that we're very well positioned to be able to provide you. And then taking that all the way through to submission of NDAs and BLAs. We have 2 ongoing audits right now with EMA and FDA for a therapy that I think ultimately will receive an application authorization before the year is over. I highlighted the Model-Informed Development Group already, so I will not spend any more time there. I will talk a bit, though, about the issue of, we hear over and over again, I have a study and it took me forever to get from the regulatory authorities to treat that first patient. I want to highlight one recent example here. You can see November through February, a 4-month startup time from the time of submission, and this happened to be a US-based study, but we have similar studies in Europe, Brazil with the Anvisa regulatory authorities, in Australia with the Ministry of Health, where somewhere between 3 and 6 months from the time that the regulatory submissions occur to having the site activated and being able to have the advanced therapy product on location and be able to start administering therapy after consent is given. So this is possible. I want to give you one last example of one sponsor that we have worked with for now almost 15 years. It is resulted in 3 approved products. It has been part of more than a half a dozen different studies and has included sites across multiple countries and multiple continents. So the ability to be able to start small and scale quickly and be able to make sure we enroll these studies in the most efficacious and time-sensitive manner. Finally, we are the leader in cell and gene therapy research with the most experienced team, the most approved products, and we have solutions that are tailored specifically to each sponsor. So again, thank you very much for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you.